Professor Rajshekar Patel Garu as the chief guest of this inaugural session towards real inclusive development in India, relevance of Mahatma jyothirao Phule's ideology and social practice. I welcome you, sir.
So, to the keynote speaker, Professor G.V. Ramana from Krishnadevara University, Anantapur. To the distinguished guests, Professor Saudamini Meenan from Palakkad, Kerala, and popularly known Kanna Master Garu, Vinnakota Venkateswarlu Garu, who just spoke and enthralled you as a member of the Executive Council also. And to the rector of this university, to the registrar of the university, to the principal, and to the OSD, and to Professor Nagaraj Garu, Center for Distance Education, and the coordinator and the seminar director, Professor Jyothirao Garu, and Professor K. Dhanalakshmi, and Professor B. Koteswarao Garu, to the distinguished faculty, distinguished scholars, distinguished delegates who are here to participate in this 2 days seminar, 1 day seminar or 2 days? Yeah, this 2 days seminar, and to the amazing students of Acharya Nagarjuna University who are always taken as a stock audience, okay. Taken and considered as a stock audience to fill the space in this auditorium, in this seminar hall, and who bear everything with a lot of patience, who keep receiving every information and bear everything with a lot of patience. I convey my best wishes on this occasion on behalf of Acharya Nagarjuna University and also on behalf of Mahatma jyothirao Phule Center. I'm happy that this year begins with an academic program. It begins with a seminar organized by jyothirao Phule Center. It has to be organized by the university. We have already decided 3 years ago that 3rd January will be observed as an official day to discuss or to celebrate the personality of Savithri Phule by the university. But since the center has come forward to organize a seminar on this day, I have given my consent, and I congratulate Professor Jyothirao Garu and Dr. Koti Yadav and his team of young scholars who have come forward to organize this seminar in a very successful way by inviting the popular resource person, Professor G.V. Ramana from Krishnadevara University, and another resource person, Professor Saudamini Meenan. Okay. So I wish to speak exclusively on Savithri Phule. Okay. I think she needs to be celebrated independently, and she needs to be studied and understood independently, not in relation to Phule, but of course her very mention of the name immediately makes her to link with Mahatma jyothirao Phule. Okay. What is so special in Savithri Phule is her distinctive identity during the 19th century as a woman, as a social activist, as the first woman educationist and the first woman teacher in India. I don't have to make you to understand what could have been the situation during the 19th century in India. I mean, those were the dark times, those were the dark days, Those were the primitive times. Those were the times when obnoxious rules and social practices were practiced, and Indians were not considered as Indians at all, because the very idea of nationalism has not even generated in the minds of the Indians those days. We were under British rule, and the British people were proclaiming that their rule was the glorious rule that could have happened to India. One of the excuses that the Britishers come out is, had British people weren't part of India, if they were not part of India, if they were not administrators of India, what could have been the fate and what could have been the social situation of India? They come out with an excuse saying that, you know, if they were not part of Indian civilization and culture, Indians wouldn't have been Indians even today, with a sense of national pride or with a sense of nationalization with which we live today. I think with which we proclaim our identities today. Of course, people who support colonial rule, people who support British colonization of India, or for that matter, colonization of any country in the world during 18th and 19th centuries, would obviously come out with this kind of excuse. They obviously say, what could have been the fate of Africa if it were not ruled by the British? What could have been the fate of other countries that were ruled by the British if Britishers were not succeeded as the master colonials, as the master colonizations, as the masters of no colonization? They say that the distant, unidentified places in the world were identified by them. They were given a kind of identity by the British explorers. They were given a kind of recognition by the British excavationists. If India were not to be ruled by the British people, what could have been the fate of Indian women, especially during those days? And let us imagine, how could a single woman during the 19th century, when even in many of the Western nations the conditions of women were so appalling, they were so tragical, and they were so, what you call, disgusting. The conditions of women even in America, the conditions of women even in England, the conditions of women even in Canada or Australia were slightly better. I don't say they were almost as same as the conditions that were in the 19th century. They were slightly better, and most of the European women, they were demonstrating for equality. They were demonstrating for equal rights. They were demonstrating for equal payment. But of course, those Western countries also had the problem of evil practices, social evil practices. But many of the social evil practices, like female infanticide, or like sati sargamana, or like illiteracy among women, or like imprisoning women completely in the domestic servitude, was the reality during the 19th century. But many of the European countries were experiencing the age of enlightenment and the age of reason. And the age of enlightenment and the age of reason was confined only to the men. It was confined only to the men. It was exclusively the contribution of the male people, the contribution of men across the world. So when it comes to India, even that consciousness of making men to feel, the students, are you following? Yeah. The students, I'm very particular about the student group because, with force, you shouldn't be allowed to sit in this auditorium, to whichever discipline you belong. Whether you are a student of engineering, a student of pharmacy, or any kind of thing. Okay. So such kind of celebrations they become social gatherings, but this social gathering should become an academic experience to all of you in a university. Okay. So I'm very very particular that celebrating Phule, celebrating the personality of Mahatma, I mean Savithri Phule, or celebrating the personality of Ambedkar or Sri Babu Jagajjeevan Rao shouldn't be a social gathering like outside. Okay, it should be an academic realization through which you experience a kind of intellectualization which makes you to feel the sense of pride in your social background and which gives you courage and boldness to represent your social identity intellectually. But unfortunately, we have a long way to go as far as our. I still find some students speaking. Okay, I can identify and I can make you to stand up if you're still speaking. If you wanted to speak, kindly go out. But if you want to be part of this, you have to pay attention to what the speakers are saying. It's not a political meeting or it's not a particular community's meeting. It is simply an academic meeting. It's a seminar. It's a seminar. And I బిలీవ్ దట్ ఇంగ్లీష్ అందరికి అర్థం అవుతుంది అనుకుంటున్నాను. ఓకే, ఈ రోజుల్లో ఇంగ్లీష్ అర్థం కాదు అని చెప్పారంటే దన్ దే ఆర్ నథింగ్ బట్ డేంజరస్ పీపుల్. ఓకే, అండ్ ఈవెన్ యువర్ ఐడెంటిటీ ఈజ్ ఇన్ క్వశ్చన్. Okay, you are a threat to your identity. If you simply say that I can't understand whatever is addressed in English, you are a threat to your own identity, and you can never make an identity of your own. Okay. But unfortunately, on the day of Savitribai Phule, it is more women students who are found to be talking, okay, than the male students. Male students are paying attention with rapt attention because to them, women's emancipation and women's identity is not their subjective experience internally. Okay, women's identity and women's emancipation, equal rights for women, is the subjective experience of women, and that is not being felt internally by any of the women students, and they don't feel also. Of course, it is not necessary that every woman should feel inherently or intuitively about their own subjective experiences. There will be many women who take shelter, who take pride in male domination. Okay, మాకు ఇవన్నీ ఎందుకు బాబు, మేము హ్యాపీగా మేము మ్యారేజ్ చేసుకుని పిల్లలను కానీ మా జీవితాలు మేము చేసుకుంటే ఏంటి మాకు ఈ శోధన అనే ముందున 80% ఉంటారు. ఓకే, స్పెషల్లీ మన ప్రొఫెషనల్ కాలేజీలో ఉన్న వాళ్ళంతా ఇదే. ఓకే, సో వాళ్ళను ఓరియంట్ చేసి యాజ్ the director is talking about ideology often. Okay, director is talking about ideology often to orient the mindset of such kind of students who have decided to lead their lives in a mental servitude of worshipping male dominating society or a patriarchal society. I'm not distinguishing between patriarchal and matriarchal society. Okay, but I'm just saying that at least the concepts can be understood, can be felt and can be experienced, and to certain level you can exercise those things to realize simple things in practical realities in your life, or else there is no point in becoming a student at the university level or in the university. Simple things, okay, which doesn't hurt your family life, which doesn't distort your family happiness, which doesn't distort your relationship with your husbands or wives or with your children, etc., etc. Simple things can be experienced, can be realized, and we can implement those things to the best of our ability by protecting our family setup, by protecting our conventional ways of living. That is what Savitribai Phule has done. Okay, without fighting against the male dominated society, in a very subtle, in a very radical way, single handedly without proclaiming that this is the mission to be filled by my husband, she had her own contribution. She gave her own contribution in her own way. Single handedly, imagine, that's why I wanted you to understand the 19th century darkness, the dark era of the 19th century in Indian history. In Indian history. Vis-a-vis the age of enlightenment that began in the 17th century in many of the European countries and continued till the 20th century. 20th century. So there are many popular 19th century women writers in US, in Canada, and in many European countries. Okay, but there was not a single popular woman writer. Of course, there are very few, hardly one or two names from the dominant sections of the society as far as women leaders are concerned during the 19th century. But even the names were also hidden by the history, the mainstream history of India. Even the names of those few women. So I have been searching or googling about the popular names of Indian women who are found to be activists, but they were very very unusual names that we have not heard. So the only name that we are hearing recently since 10 years is Savitribai Phule. Savitribai Phule. So I was trying to make a constructive comparison between Savitribai Phule and other women popular writers in the West, and I could find only uh, uh, Harriet Baker Stowe, who wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, the 19th century woman writer, the most popular woman writer, and I could found only Margaret Fuller, who wrote the 19th century woman. I think the 19th century woman is the most popular book that has ignited a kind of consciousness across the world about the lives of women. The 19th century woman, the title of the book itself is 19th century woman. Savitribai Phule belongs to 19th century, and that was written by Margaret Fuller. She was an American social activist. American social activist. For many European women champions, there were not many social evil practices to be confronted, to be challenged. But for Savitribai Phule, there were many social evil practices. Okay, Purdah system we already had; it was very very rampant. Even now we have Purdah system. Sati Sagamana, it is still rampant, even in some of the remotest parts of northern states, very, mildly being practiced by most of the women, most of the uneducated women in Rajasthan and other states. Okay, Sati Sagamana. And then I think in one of the incidents, Savitribai Phule single-handedly, saves the lives of two young lovers. Okay, even today, if two young lovers belonging to two different communities, two different social backgrounds, if they were found to be in love, they become the victims to fatwa, the social fatwa, or the panchayat dictum. So if you are a girl from Rajasthan or a boy from Delhi, and if you happen to be studying in Delhi, metros of Delhi, and if you happen to be falling in love, and if you happen to be marrying and leading your life in Delhi, even in metros, your destiny will be decided by your panchayat leaders of Rajasthan sitting under a banyan tree, and they will say, our woman from our community fell in love with a boy in Delhi and she is found to be living and she should be killed. Okay, she should be killed. No court and no legal system can save your life once your panchayat elders sitting under the banyan tree takes that decision. You will be chased even if you are living in Delhi. If you are in US, that's okay, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. It takes a long time for them. Takes a long time for them. So honor deaths are of contemporary reality for the young people. For the young people. Even if you go to Hyderabad, if you go to Bombay, or if you go to Delhi, if your village elders decide the destiny of your life that you should be killed, you will have to run for shelter, helter skelter. Okay, Nobody, not even Supreme Court, not even Indian administrative force can save your lives. That is happening everywhere, on or deaths. Savitribai Phule has saved the life of a young boy when he was openly being murdered for falling in love with a woman of other social background. And she went and she scared the mob single handedly. She scared the mob and told them, "Your lives will be penalized under the British administrative law." She explained what could be the consequences if you are found to be, if you kill that boy. Under British administrative law, the Britishers will hunt you and they will definitely see that you're killed. So, got scared by the consequences, the mob withdrew. The mob withdrew. So imagine the mob psychology in the 19th century and mob psychology in today's times. It is very difficult to handle the mob with such kind of primitive psychology when they have decided to kill the people who are found to be crossing the boundaries of social domination or social class. ఇప్పుడు ఎవరైనా అటువంటి చేస్తున్నా ఐ డోంట్ థింక్ సో. దట్స్ వేర్ ఐఎమ్ saying that Savitribai Phule need to be discussed independently, and her photo only should be there, not Jyothirao Phule's photo. But of course, with due respect to Jyothirao Phule, because he's the backbone and he's the responsible person in giving that freedom to his wife, and in seeing that his wife is also educated along with him. We do that, but then if we practice the same, what do you call, the same way, the same kind of accepting Jyothirao Phule, at least today, that would be a redundancy of, accepting the perpetuation of male domination and male patriarchy. Okay, male domination and male patriarchy. Because 80% of our argument is on presentation is on Mahatma Jyothirao Phule, and only 10% of information comes in support of Savitribai Phule, which the young women scholars should take up and should exclusively conduct a research on the contribution of Savitribai Phule. And do you know how Savitribai Phule died? Savitribai Phule died, as a victim of bubonic plague. As a victim of bubonic plague, because she was found to be saving the lives of the people. Plague was the normal disease during those days. Once plague used to attack the society, lakhs and lakhs of people used to die. Okay. Now, in the present situation, when we are being hit by corona, okay, even if our family members are dying in front of our eyes, we tend to shiver and we tend to push them to the corner, as it is effectively shown by RGV in his film, small documentary on corona. Have you seen? Okay. RGV has directed a film, Corona. Okay. Directed a film, Corona. Every family member suspects the other one when they are found to be coughing. Okay. When they are found to be sneezing and coughing in the family, wife suspects the husband and husband suspects the daughter suspects the brother. Finally, I think it is the father, who is found to be the victim, and everybody abandons the father. Okay. And what is the fear psychosis and what is the portrayal of the characters? How do they function in such a situation? Can any human being bravely face the death when you are hit, when you are attacked by a contagious disease like a bubonic plague during the 19th century? She faced as a woman. Women taking such kind of courageous decisions during the 19th century is something unheard of. Okay. Men, that's different. Okay. I mean, they move in the society and they battle with at least, the upper caste people. They wanted to chase and kill the downtrodden people in the open streets as part of discrimination, as part of social discrimination. That's men's domain and men's sports events, to kill and to chase somebody else in the name of social discrimination or caste discrimination. But men coming forward to save the lives of the people, knowing fully well that they would be killed, they would be victimized, by these kinds of diseases, because your future cannot be predicted, your health cannot be predicted. Health standards were so low during the 19th century, not even the beginning of the 20th century, fag end of the 19th century. The whole of India was completely dark, no electricity. Okay, no electricity anywhere except in metros, except in important places where British people, posited their administrative castles. In the remote villages, you can't travel even now to some of the parts of Maharashtra. Okay, the other arid, dry part of Maharashtra cannot be traveled. ఆ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ మహారాష్ట్రలో సావిత్రిబాయి పూలే అండ్ మహాత్మా జ్యోతిరావు పూలే, దే వర్ born there, and they successfully conducted such kind of social mission. So with these two events bringing to your kind notice, my dear and wonderful students of Acharya Nagarjuna University, who will not be able to pay attention to any of the things which is being spoken here, okay, and will be happily loitering in your mental space, okay, talking with your friends and then chatting with your friends, okay. So with these two things, I request the dynamic students of Acharya Nagarjuna University to consider Savitribai Pule's life and mission as the inspiring things for you. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.